Hello again, it's Ian Watt here. Once again, I'm a little bit early for some teaching work, and it's quite cold in London. The temperature has suddenly dropped, and I've got pretty cold hands, and I'm thinking it might be worth using the few minutes I've got to warm up a little bit. I'd like to take you through some of the things I do to warm up my right hand. So I've got the guitar positioned in a good place for you to see how I go about that. So I think it's good if you've got cold hands to start one finger at a time. Very, very simple exercises like this, playing open strings. Start with the index finger. And you can use this as a little bit of technique practice as well. So I want to make sure that my finger is moving from here and not like this. I want to make sure that I'm pushing the string down but not moving too far past the string so that I'm going to be efficient. And I also want to make sure that my finger resets after each stroke. So the finger's not being held like this and then having to come back at the last minute. That's really important. The reset of the finger after the stroke it's really important. Otherwise, you end up having to do two movements to play a note, but your finger's back here, so you've got to move it here and then do the stroke. So resetting after each note is really important. I'm going to do the same with my middle finger. So the good thing about this is that you're not going to injure yourself if your hands are cold. It's a nice, easy way of warming up, but making sure everything is correct technically. So I think those three things, making sure that we're playing from here, making sure we're pushing the string down, making sure we're not moving too far past the string, and resetting as the sort of second part of that third point. So I'm losing count, so I can't really play and speak at the same time. Now the A finger. So far I'm doing only free stroke. Another thing to look out for is consistency. Consistency in sound. So each stroke should really sound the same. Same dynamic level, same tone quality. Try and get it as close as possible. That can be quite hard when your hands are cold and you're not warmed up. But it means that when you are cold, that extra bit of effort, that extra bit of focus is actually very good. Yeah. I also like to warm up my pinky. Now don't be alarmed at the fact the tone isn't as good. I keep the nail quite long for rasgueados, but it's really about moving the finger and making sure that this part of the hand doesn't end up underdeveloped. I think I mentioned in other videos that weak muscle under the pinky is very well developed in the left hand of guitarists, but not in the right hand because we don't pluck the string with the pinky. So it's important to use it in technique, and it will help you in all sorts of ways. It's then worth doing the same thing again with apoyando. So again, making sure we're playing from here. Usually the finger is slightly straighter and the wrist a little bit lower for apoyando, but not too much because we need to be able to go from tirando to apoyando easily, back and forth in an effortless way. But there is a slight difference in angle. And that's going to be a bit different for everybody because everybody has different hands and different nails. And then the middle finger. So another thing we want to look out for is that the tone we get between fingers is consistent. I think I just said that because I detected a slight inconsistency. My middle finger didn't quite sound the same as the index finger. That of course could be an issue with your nail shape. It's a couple of days since I've done anything to my nails. And then the A finger. Now I don't tend to practice apoyando with the pinky, so I'll just skip the pinky. And the reason for that is that when playing apoyando with the pinky, it tends to push the knuckle down, and that can put pressure on the nerve that runs through this part of this side of the hand. It can compress that nerve, and I've had problems with that in the past. Before actually I practiced much with the pinky, but you don't want to exacerbate that in any way. So, but you might find that that's not a problem with your hands, or you know, I've got very short pinkies, and that's probably what causes the knuckle to droop too much. Anyway, I didn't quite finish the A finger, but that's all right. The next thing I go on to is practicing with 3 fingers. I don't tend to warm up using I and M or M and A alternation. I do that separately as sort of separate technique practice. But for a warm up, it's very good to go from single fingers to using 3 fingers. You notice I'm playing 6 notes per string, and the reason for that is that it means we always we sort of alternate which finger leads the string crossing. So the index finger leads that crossing, then the A finger. Now the reason I do that is that when you're moving from high to low, the string crossing which is led by the A finger is a negative string crossing. We're going like this. And that's something that's really important to practice. On the way back up, the negative string crossing is actually when the index finger leads. And a good way to practice negative string crossings is to use a little bit of planting, a little bit of preparation. See, I get the finger there early, and practicing that quite a lot, that planting, makes that negative move from middle to A finger feel very natural, and the same on the way back. That becomes quite natural if you practice preparation and planting. So it's a good way, even though this is maybe primarily a warm-up, it's a very good way of practicing that quite foundational aspect of technique. Once you've been through that, very good to practice apoyando. And you'll notice with apoyando, I still have a little bit of bounce back, reset of each finger. So just as you don't want to keep the finger back like that, just as you don't want to do that with tirando, you don't want to do it with apoyando either. Yeah. So. Sorry, I'm practicing Turandot. So this should be apoyando. Again, I would suggest practicing with the pinky as well, not apoyando. So it's worth doing that same routine with M, A, and the pinky. And still do the planting with the pinky. Even you might think, well, I'm not going to use it anyway, so it doesn't really matter that I'm using good technique. But it always helps to use good technique even when you don't have to. And that does tend to then mean you're forming good habits, and you've got the technique when you do need it. A lot of technique can be covered in very simple exercises done well. You find that the hard stuff, well, suddenly you can do it because you've strengthened the foundations. If you feel that your right hand has started to warm up by then, those exercises can be done again with speed bursts. And then you can, of course, do the whole thing fast. But the important thing is that you're doing it at a speed at which you can still do everything well. So a good stroke from here, pushing the string down rather than pulling up, making sure that you reset after the stroke, and making sure the sound is consistent. So if all of those things are there at the fastest speed, that's good. If they're not, then your speed bursts need to be a little slower. You need to find the tempo at which you can do everything well. There's no point. If you play faster than you can play, you are undoing the good work that you've just done, practicing slowly and carefully. And you are then forming bad habits, which then have to be undone at an even slower tempo. So it doesn't pay at all to go faster, to play faster than you can play. So that's a good simple way of warming up. You find warm-ups like that in technique books. That's a slightly adapted version of what you find in Kitharolagus, but you find it in other places as well. After that, a good exercise to move on to would be single finger rasgueros. By single finger, I don't necessarily mean just repeating the same finger, although that's certainly good. It depends how your hands are feeling and how advanced you are with that particular technique. But what I tend to do is I sort of, rather than doing it like that, I just go through that. The pinky needs a little bit of time to warm up to the speed that is required. And I'm playing 3 strings here. My thumb is on the 4th string, so that I don't play the 4th string. And then I can move the thumb to the 5th string and play 4 strings. action is the important thing. But the pinky, if you find that's a bit slow, you maybe need to practice that a little bit on its own. And just note that, again, when you're practicing that as a warm-up, it's really important to do it well and to be forming good technique. So if you notice, what I'm doing there is making sure that the fingers that have already played are resetting gradually. See, so the pinky is back to its starting point. So that's really important, because if we want to go fast later and we go through that pattern and keep all the fingers extended, they've all got to come back together. It's not a very efficient way of doing it. So one finger at a time, reset. You might find that action is difficult for a start, of having the pinky reset when the A finger plays. So you might need to practice that away from the guitar. That's absolutely fine. But warming up the hand by giving the extensors a workout with Rasgueiro, really good, really useful. Don't start with it though. Start with normal strokes in a very careful way, especially if your hands are cold. You want to be somewhat warmed up before starting Rasgueiros. Anyway, so that's some thoughts for warming up your right hand. You don't have to do those specific exercises, but I think the sort of general ideas are good, good matter for thought. And well, I hope you find it find it helpful. Once again, if you enjoyed this video, its content, please do like and subscribe, and I look forward to seeing you again in the next one. All the best.